You're listening to another episode of the Just Go Bike podcast, powered by RAGBRAI. This is the award-winning podcast where we are all about the culture of cycling, just for the fun of it. Your hosts are Murph from the Murphology podcast and AP from Parrot Talk. With tales from all over the nation, come for the bikes, stay for the fun, and leave with a smile. And now here is Murph.
Hey, that's me.
And AP.
Hey, that's me. Hi, Murph. What's up?
Hi. It's a great day to be on the Just Go Bike podcast, right?
Always.
And we're live together, or we're in the same room together here at Parrot Talk Studios, so pretty cool.
It's great. I know. I love how we have to announce when we're together on the podcast every time. So,
right.
I mean, it just adds a little something.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah.
So I've got an epic adventure on the horizon, and I don't recall if I've talked about it on the podcast yet.
I don't think you have. Lay it on us.
Okay. Well, it's in North Carolina. It's a week-long tour, and it's called literally North Carolina Mountains to Coast.
Oh.
So you can already guess where I start and where I end.
Is it downhill the whole way?
No. I think it's like 18,000 feet of climb.
Wow.
The first day is over 4,000. So I'm a little bit nervous about that because, you know, it is going to be in October, and RAGBRAI's been over for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds epic. Like, are you trained? Are you ready?
Well, I think so. I've been doing, started doing a bunch of Zwift rides, and I've been riding outside. So
yeah.
Anyway.
There's really no off season for Kathy Murphy.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's, this event is part of a series of events that North Carolina Amateur Sports, they're the nonprofit that puts the event on. Gosh, it's been quite a long time, but I did an episode over on the Murphology podcast about this ride. And isn't that weird how that works? Because then I talked myself into doing it.
Well, it's been on your bucket list for a while. So which exact mountains does it go through?
I believe it's the Blue Ridge Mountains, which I also think there's a song that has to do with the Blue Ridge Mountains, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. Maybe,
I'm not singing it.
Maybe some listener remembers it, but I'm also told it's home to black bears and rattlesnakes.
Ooh.
Eek, eek, eek.
So if you have to go to the bathroom, use a Kai boat. Don't just go off into the woods
Right.
or use extreme caution. Speaking of bears, there's been a thing that's all the rage in the RAGBRAI office recently, and it's called Fat Bear Week. And have you been participating?
Well, of course I have. Shout out to Chunk. He's number 32, I believe, he or she.
Uh-huh.
Do you want, I guess we should give a high level. Will you give a high level of what we're talking about if people don't actually know what Fat Bear Week is?
Well, I just happen to have their website pulled up right here. It's an annual tradition where you can vote for the fattest bear of the year. Some of the largest brown bears on Earth make their home at Brooks River in Kamadi National Park in Alaska. So obviously a brown bear really needs to get fat to survive for the winter. And this tournament is sort of a little celebration of that, like eating all these. You can watch a live stream of them eating salmon and like just getting fat. And really, it's just a kind of a thing where you pick which one you like the best, and it's just on vibes. It's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be the fattest bear.
Right.
But I like to vote for the fattest. I mean, come on.
My current favorite is 901. And I was watching some video yesterday, and literally, I don't know which bear it was, but they were laying in the stream on their backs. And the belly was just so huge. I don't know which bear it was, but he or she was living its best life, and probably just like would lean those huge claws into the water and just grab a salmon and be like, hello, snacks and pool.
I'm trying to look at who I voted for today. I had it written down earlier, but you know, it's okay.
Well, I will say while you're looking for that, if you're listening to this podcast before September 30th, you can still get in on the fun. Simply go to fatbearweek.org.
There you go. Yep. We're their biggest fans. I really liked Fat Bear 128, but I also like 602, which is unfortunate because it's going up against year 32.
Oh,
so
okay.
We may have to have a fight for the first time ever.
Because over bears?
Over bears, fat bears. So
Bears that hopefully we never meet in person.
I hope not, but we screenshot them. We send pictures of them to each other. We send videos. So
Yeah.
it's been a great celebration, something to do over the winter
Yeah,
or cold fall season.
It's kind of fun, yeah.
Should we get back to this week's episode?
Let's do it, yes. Okay, so most listeners know that we had a sweet Winnebago this year, which meant it was pretty easy to spot us throughout the week, especially you when you were driving, but also we were parking in the expo every night.
Yeah, it was so cool. We had a lot of people stop by and say hi. It was just really fun, and I would honk at just about anybody who waved. So,
Was it a friendly honk or a...
I try
Okay.
to beep in a friendly way.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a lot of fans stop by, and it was just so cool to meet everybody and get to talk.
Yeah. Okay, so one such fan that was on RAGBRAI is Liam Whitaker, and he's on the pod to talk about his RAGBRAI experience.
Liam, I think it was his first RAGBRAI, right?
Yeah, it was, and he decided to go big for his first year. Him and his buddy, I think his name was John, started RAGBRAI in Guttenberg. Now
Wow.
you're thinking to yourself, that's where RAGBRAI ends. He started in Guttenberg, pedaled all the way to Orange City, and then joined RAGBRAI and pedaled RAGBRAI back to Guttenberg. So we're talking over 800 miles.
Wow. I mean, that's one way to deal with how do I get back to my car at the end of RAGBRAI. That's one solution.
Yeah.
So, well, I can't wait to hear the story about their epic adventure.
It's great. Here we go. A very warm welcome to Mr. Liam Whitaker. Hey, Liam.
Hey, Murph, how are you?
Good. It's not very often that I do a podcast episode and I've already had the joy of meeting the person, which is you. So I got to meet you on RAGBRAI this year, and then now we're back on to talk a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, I'd say it was awesome getting to meet you guys.
And it was actually several times, I think. You know, it's like that, it's that weird RAGBRAI, I don't even know the right word. It's not RAGBRAI miracle, but that RAGBRAI connection where you meet somebody, let's say it's on day 0 or day 1, and then somehow you end up seeing them throughout the week. And that was the case with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think day 0 was just a bucket list. Like I had to see the Just Go Bike podcast. And then from there, the paths intertwined was just always an awesome part of every day.
Yeah. Well, I think that you have a kind of a unique story about your RAGBRAI experience. But before we get into that, will you tell the listeners where you're from or where you live now and what cycling is like there?
Yeah, of course. I am from Knoxville, Tennessee, and cycling here is a lot different than Iowa, for sure. Like, one of the first things I noticed in Iowa was bike lanes. we don't do a whole lot of that here, and even on the kind of bigger roads in Iowa, there was a bigger shoulder, and so in Knoxville, Tennessee, very hilly, and the roads are pretty busy. So when we would train for RAGBRAI, a lot of our rides would result in experiences that were great stories, but made us truly appreciate the flats of Iowa and maybe even kind of love and appreciate I think some people on RAGBRAI called it a waffle. Is that right? Like Iowa's like a waffle. Have you heard that before?
Yes. And it's basically because, you know, people think it's flat, but it's a lot of rollers up and down and up and down and up and down.
Yeah, those rollers were kind of a slice of home, which was nice since we were gone for 3 weeks. So, but yeah, biking in Tennessee is certainly a lot different. Not bad by any means, just maybe a little more dangerous.
Sure, yeah. So you're risking, you know, when you're on a bike ride, it's probably not as relaxing as maybe rural Iowa.
No, certainly not. Especially, and even when we started RAGBRAI and, you know, you jump up to 15,000 riders instead of just me and my buddy, even that, I still kind of had this awesome appreciation for looking out in front of me and seeing road instead of looking out in front of me and seeing hill or mountain.
I know we don't have mountains here in Iowa, but we still have elevation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that last hill on the last day, I do sometimes have nightmares about that.
Well, you mentioned that you were gone for 3 weeks, which I'm sure people who are listening are like, well, wait a minute. RAGBRAI is only 7 days long, and then if you travel, that still doesn't make sense. But you got to give us the story on how or why you decided to ride your first RAGBRAI this year, and then you can tell us how you RAGBRAI'd.
Yeah. A good friend of mine has been in my ear for the last 2 years now saying that we need to do this Trans-America Trail, which is just, you go from Astoria, Oregon to Yorktown, Virginia, all across America. And, on paper, it's one of those things that, we're young, it makes sense to do, but the timing wasn't working out. And so we said that RAGBRAI looks like a great way to kind of see if we're ready to do it and just meet some awesome people along the way. And so we switched our plans this summer from doing Trans-America to doing RAGBRAI, and we still wanted to get some training in. And so we got what we thought was a good amount of training in, and then we decided that if we were really going to do Trans-America, we wanted to push it to the limit. So what we decided to do was we decided to start where RAGBRAI ended in Guttenberg, and then go from Guttenberg to Orange City. And now, before I move on, I've actually heard mixed reviews from locals. Is it Guttenberg or Guttenberg?
It's Guttenberg.
I'm not even kidding. For all 3 weeks, we heard both. And so
yeah.
we always tried to let someone from Iowa say it first, and then we would follow suit.
I heard it, right from the townspeople. We were there for a meeting, and I was doing just a fun interview, and I'm like, all right, you guys, at the count of 3, tell me how to pronounce your community. And thank goodness all of them did say Guttenberg. So,
yeah.
7 townspeople can't be wrong, right?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely not. And I think that was generally what we heard as well, was Guttenberg, but you get the occasional Guttenberg, and it makes you scratch your head a little bit.
Yeah.
So we went from Guttenberg, and we didn't want to do the route times 2, so we actually went a little bit south and hit some awesome towns along the way. We went to Elkader, we went to Lamar's, which was a vital stop from what we heard along the way, and then once we got to Orange City, we then just RAGBRAI'd back.
So did you have a plan as far as we're going to get to Guttenberg this day and we have to be in Orange City by the time RAGBRAI starts, or did you take a break in between the 2 adventures?
Yeah, so we actually had what I can only describe as humbling experiences in our training leading up to RAGBRAI. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to give ourselves as much time as possible. And so when we did reverse RAGBRAI, I think we left with maybe 11 or 12 days before RAGBRAI actually started from Guttenberg. And so we were like, if we were to do 40 or 50 miles a day, we would make it and be completely fine. And of course, you've got days where you do 70 miles and then it's hot. That hot Iowa sun on the asphalt can make you only want to do 20 some days.
And I think you would be able to answer this question. A lot of people feel very passionate that when you ride your bike west to east across Iowa, in general, you'll have a lot of tailwinds. But I feel like we had a lot of headwinds this year going west to east. So, did you feel? Can you speak to the wind? Because you got to go both ways.
I was talking to my buddy this morning actually, and we felt like we hit headwinds the whole time.
Yeah.
There was no winning. Some days it felt like you 1 step forward, 2 steps back, and it was mostly because of those headwinds. And I think that's just kind of a yin and yang of the flats. All the wind that you're getting, you're feeling it for miles and miles and miles.
Right.
And so we felt it going east to west just as much as I think we felt it going west to east. I hate to admit, but that was kind of our experience.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's somebody listening right now that is a professional in meteorology or in wind that would beg to differ, but I don't know. I feel like it's getting to be a myth.
I think Iowa wind is the only phenomenon that truly cannot be accounted for. There were some days where it felt like it was coming from every direction. I think on day 4 or so, there were flats where I was like, oh, this is great. And then we wouldn't even change direction, but all of a sudden I'd be miserable.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so you're you're extremely unique in that you got to ride across the state twice via bicycle. Did you do this solo or with a team or family or friends?
So a good family friend of mine that I've known for 5 or 6 years now, him and I, he's always been very passionate about biking, and he actually, I think in 2019 or maybe 2020, he had signed up for RAGBRAI with another friend of his, and he got into a little biking fender bender and couldn't end up doing it. And I think part of him always kind of wanted to do it again, and I was just the kind of willing participant in that stage of life where RAGBRAI was kind of for me as well. And so he talked me into it, and now we both have an experience that we talk about every day.
Yeah. And is he the same guy that you want to do Transamerica with?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
So we were going to do Transamerica this summer, and then RAGBRAI kind of happened. And I don't want to deter any listeners. I love biking more than I ever thought I would, but we realized over RAGBRAI that Transamerica is a heavy undertaking. So our plan has switched now to, we're going to do it state by state, because we loved biking across Iowa and just getting to see everything that the state had to offer, all the awesome people, towns, and just like everything that we could do in Iowa, we felt like we did. And so if we stretch that over Transamerica, we feel like we were worried we would lose some appreciation for that. So we think we're going to do it state by state now, but honestly, we're still kind of just in that recovery mode, still reflecting on RAGBRAI.
Right. Well, and this is a side note, but I have it on the schedule to do Transamerica in 2027. So if you're still dreaming about it, you and your friend, then you got a group that you can join, and we'll all do it together. But I think we have scheduled 75 days, so it's quite a ask. But anyway, we can talk about that later. So back to you riding from Guttenberg to Orange City and then back. Tell us about your bike setup in the way you pedaled. Were you self-contained? Did you have a support vehicle? Did you have your friend carry all your stuff for you? That'd be awesome if you did. But how did you do it?
If I could have had him carry it, I would have. But we were both packed to the gills with everything we thought we needed, and maybe even some stuff we didn't.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest part of it is and we talked a little bit about this before the podcast, but I am very happy to report that I'm now part of a community of baggers that is just, it's so awesome, and everyone's so supportive. And so we looked online and we asked some people before we left, and we got some help with setting up our bikes. And so basically both of us had 4 panniers, 2 on the front, 2 on the back. We strapped our tents to the bikes itself, and then we had our sleeping mats and clothes, some snacks. I had a bag just for knickknacks because I knew that I would pick up so much stuff along the way, and I did not disappoint myself. Toiletries, towels, all of this came from the bagging community, and honestly the RAGBRAI groups on Facebook. We would just ask questions, and sometimes it seemed like thousands of people would have advice and support and ways to kind of make us feel like we weren't going in blind.
Yeah. And I I call myself a bagger for sure. And anybody who listens to this podcast knows that I do plenty of bagging. And even after, 15, 20 years of doing it, I still end up like finishing up an adventure. And there are things in my bike bag that I never, ever touched. So did you notice that happen to you too? Or did you actually pack appropriately that you use everything you brought?
I don't want to sound holier than thou, but we had a training experience where we went to Chattanooga. It's relatively close to Knoxville. We had planned this big Chattanooga trip, and we packed stuff that I get heat for this all the time, but I packed 75 Rice Krispie treats and 30 oatmeal cream pies. And I packed all these things, and we realized 2 days into this Chattanooga trip I'm telling you about that, like, we didn't need that, and that's like 4 extra pounds of weight. Right. And so for RAGBRAI, we had, I think, done a lot of the work to where, like, we kind of knew everything we needed, but there was some stuff like I think the stuff near the bottom of my bag, like I think we would go and wash clothes often enough that like I had maybe a couple extra pairs of socks that I could have not brought. But then again, I think all of us, maybe even a little bit, are just guilty of, well, just in case, like what if? The what if will kill you as a bagger.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that with socks and then also with jackets. Like,
yeah.
Now I know a rain jacket can also be a warm jacket, and it can also sometimes be a blanket on, when you're cold at night. But there was a time when I would want my puffy jacket and then a flannel and then another jacket and then my rain jacket. And I'm like, what the heck? I don't need all those.
And you quickly realize too that like, maybe a puffy jacket that adds like a quarter of a pound isn't a lot, but multiply a quarter of a pound over 200, 400, however many miles, and it starts to, you start to feel like, man, I wish I had just doubled down and used the jacket as a blanket.
Exactly. Tell us something memorable about your RAGBRAI experience. I'm hoping that you had a great experience because you're on the podcast to talk about it, but
I myself and my buddy John, we had the time of our lives. I cannot think back to a single day, even on those hot days, on that 70-mile day where, the voice in my head maybe was like, oh, it's too hot to be doing this right now. When I look back, I only look back with gratitude. Just because I think for me, and I'll speak on behalf of my buddy John as well, the people we met, and we kind of knew that we were doing it to meet the people, but I don't think either of us really understood just how many people we would meet and how willing they would be to help us and guide us and care for us and laugh with us. And just, look now at me on this podcast with you. Like I got to meet you, Murph, and AP, and I got to meet this wonderful family in Orange City when we got to go back to your question. Probably the most memorable experience was when John and I got into Orange City. You got to remember, we had just biked for 11 days and, most of the days were just us. And so we're riding into Orange City and we're seeing people with bikes and they're setting up tents and like the community is alive and like all of Iowa was alive. But like you have the expo in Orange City and like that place was unlike anything I could have ever imagined. And so we're biking in and we probably look like two lost little lambs. And so we pull up to this lovely couple and kind of ask them, where do we go? What do we do? And they pointed us to some of the local spots. They said the Roadhouse, which I don't know if you got a chance to eat there, but the owner there, Aaron, is great. And, they pointed us in his direction. And so we're there eating lunch at the Roadhouse. And this couple that we met had actually come to the Roadhouse to find us and said like, hey, we were thinking about you guys. We know you're baggers. Are you tenting it tonight? And we were like, yeah. And so Kendall and Ashley, they, with maybe 2 hours of notice, opened up their house to us for 2 days. And it was a quintessential RAGBRAI experience and just really speaks to the character of everyone on RAGBRAI, but especially Kendall and Ashley and their family. We slept in their house. We ate with them. They took us to a bar that night, like a speakeasy to open up in Orange City that night. And so we went there with them. And it felt like we were like adopted for the weekend. And we still talk to them to this day. And they're planning on making a trip up to Tennessee to see us. And so I think that experience speaks to just how awesome and how lucky I am to have been a part of RAGBRAI and their experience. And they even rode the first day a little bit with us as well. Like everyone in Iowa was a part of that.
Oh, that's so cool. It's just fun to know the stories of, like you said, when you pull, okay, so you ride your bike all the way across Iowa and you probably don't see a lot of bikers. And then once you get to that place where thousands and thousands of people have the same passion for biking that you do, like it's a whole weird feeling that it's kind of hard to explain to somebody who doesn't see it.
Yeah, it really is just a feeling. There's like something in the air, like excitement, nerves maybe. Everyone's just eager to get started. Everyone there knows they're going to be eating really good for the next week. They're going to be talking to people that share a similar interest. They're going to be talking to 15,000 other people that share a similar interest, and there's really no greater comfort than that.
Now you know what it feels like to host a podcast talking about biking. Like,
yeah,
every time you talk
envy
to somebody, it's just like you feel like it's Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. That giddy feeling where you just can't stop smiling. I really just that we loved we called it reverse RAGBRAI when my buddy John and I did it, and when we started RAGBRAI at the expo, and we got to meet Kendall and Ashley, that was just like this is what it's going to be like. Like,
yeah,
this is just this. We've been here for 5 minutes, and we've already had this experience that's going to, shape the rest of my life. I'm always going to value the relationship I have with them, and so that quantified over 7 days, we just knew we were in for a good time.
Oh, that's awesome. And I assume I know the answer, but do you think you'll come back and do it again?
We're already kind of talking about it. It's hard not to. We're not sure if we're going to be baggers, but I think the culture and the time that we spent there is just it's too infectious not to come back to.
Yeah. How about you spoke about people, which that was a great story. Do you have like a sense of any favorites that you experienced, whether it was maybe a vendor stop or food or, I don't know, slip and slide?
I've got so many that come to mind, but probably the first one in terms of sequential order was Primgar on day one.
Oh,
what
yeah.
an awesome town. We went to Primgar and Primgar pie. We kept hearing that all morning. You got to get some Primgar pie. And so when we got into Primgar, we'd kind of gotten there a little bit late. And I think a lot of the pie, especially in one of those first towns, was gone. And so we pulled up to this church where they had that big bubble machine. And this woman came out. John and I were kind of in line. This woman came out. She goes, "This is all we have left, folks. Just take what you can or what you want." And so it's like a mass of just 300 arms going for pie. And so John kind of, I think, throws me over the crowd, and I managed to grab, I think, I'm like flying, and I grab a blackberry and a cherry, and then we go back under the tent, and we're just eating in the sun, or I guess under the tent, but like it's beautiful outside, and we're seeing 10,000 other people, and there's this bubble machine, and there's music, and there's a band right next to the church. And I think both of us in that moment realized, like, as if Orange City didn't already cement it, but like, this is RAGBRAI. There's 10,000 other people that are just eating pie, laughing, drinking, having a good time. And so Primgar really informed us, not so much about like the people, which we'd already kind of gotten that experience, but like of what it's going to be like to actually travel, to eat, to sing, dance, all of that. Oh,
yeah. And I can't recall if this happened in Primgar, but there was a guy with a cardboard sign that said RAGPie, like RAGBRAI, but it said RAGPie. And I was standing in line, chatting with the people around me, and literally the man 2 people in front of me got the last piece. And it was like one huge groan, because the guy's like, "Well, that's it, folks. See you next year," or whatever. And we're all like, "What?" We look at that guy like, can we all have a bite? But no. But luckily,
please don't tell me that was me that stole us. Please don't tell me it was my flailing body just lunging over going for these pieces of Primgar pie.
No, there was no lunging in this situation, so it was not you for sure. Yeah. But the nice thing about RAGBRAI is, it's kind of known for local foods, and there was pie at pretty much almost every town. So I still got my fill. So, and then did you tent most of the week, or just sleep under the stars, or did you find other hosts?
So we stayed with Kendall and Ashley, that family in Orange City, for the expo, and then once we left, every single night we tented. And since we were kind of self-supported, we had the luxury of independence in the fact that, like, we didn't have to be too close to a charter or any one particular place, which is not by any means like there's a lot of benefits that come with that as well. But I think on the days where we were more tired, we put ourselves as close to the start of the next day as we could. But yeah, most nights we tented it. And I think actually only one night did we stay in the main campground. Every other night we would just kind of we'd look at the map the day before. Like I think about Iowa Falls, we had looked ahead of time and pointed out the Myers Aquatic Center. And we were like, oh yeah, we're going to want to camp there because it's a pool. And after a 70-mile day, we're going to want that. And so we were able to kind of plan ahead of time. And so the main campsite was great. But when we tented it, we just kind of looked for people that kind of looked like they were like us in terms of tenting and kind of self-sufficient. And we talked to them and pitched a tent, and the rest was history.
And I think we hit a little bit on each of these topics, but heat, hills, or headwinds, what would you say the one that got you the most?
Heat, hills, or headwinds? I'd have to say heat. There were some days where that Iowa sun felt like, you'd look up in the sky and try to see the nearest cloud and count count the minutes until it'd be over the sun. But there were definitely some days where shade breaks were hard to come by just because every single person that could be taking a shade break that tree was already fully covered.
Right. And, hills, there's an end, right? There's a top of a hill and then you can coast down. And headwinds, we change directions here and there, but it's even with shade, it's, heat can really, really get you.
Yeah, no. And I think we kind of talked about the headwinds too. And, we make jokes, but they weren't the end of the world. I think our philosophy was, I'm fine with heat, I'm fine with hills, I'm fine with headwinds, but I won't do two at once.
Oh, okay.
Like I'll do one at a time, but I more than two is tough. And so some days were heat and headwinds, and some days was hill and headwinds, but most of the time it was only just one of those three elements.
Well, when you think about, you did it as a bagger, which is a little bit different than a lot of people do, meaning you had fully loaded bicycles. With that said, what advice would you give somebody who maybe has RAGBRAI as a bucket list item?
Yeah. I think whether you're doing it as a bagger, like John and I did, or you go through a charter, or a combination of both, I think the best advice I can give is the advice that I was given, which is you got to make it your own. Some people go and they'll call it a party on two wheels, and it certainly was. Some people will go just to see some of their friends that they only see once a year. Some people will go and race it like it's trying to get done with the 70 miles as soon as possible, whether that be to party or just, say that they can or do the 100-mile loop. And all of those are just as valuable as the other. So I think the advice that I would give is to just make it your own and go into it with the mentality that out of the 20,000 riders you're going to be riding with every day, not a single person there is going to be having the same experience that you are. And what an awesome gift and privilege to kind of be a part of.
Oh, yeah. Well said. And it's so right. The people that leave at 5 a.m. versus the people that leave at 9 a.m. have a completely different RAGBRAI, but we all have the same goal, which is to have fun, enjoy yourselves, and get to the Mississippi River.
Get to the Mississippi River. There are few feelings greater than dipping your tire. And I think John and I were so excited, maybe also pretty tired, but I think I dipped my entire bike in. Like we took them off, and you take off 50 pounds of panniers, and all of a sudden your bike is like paperweight. And so we got in line and we dipped our bikes in, and we've got those videos, and man, just looking back on those, it's like, for us it was 800 miles, but even just doing the RAGBRAI, looking back on that, it's like, wow, that is, even though it is kind of a party and you're having fun, that is a tough feat to pull off, and to do it with 20,000 other people is just so awesome.
Right. And 800 miles in a matter of, 2 full weeks, that's impressive.
We maybe bit off a little more than we could chew, but I know for a fact that neither of us has any regrets going to Storm Lake and the water park there. We stopped at the Field of Dreams, which I believe you did as well.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
At the end of we got to see all these awesome things and meet so many people. If I scroll through my camera roll right now, I've got maybe 50 different selfies with people that I all know by name.
Wow.
I think of like another person, Lamar's Parlor Beth at the Blue Bunny kind of
ice cream
main
place
shop there at the main shop. Yeah, in Lamar's, we had just pulled up, and Parlor Beth, that's her name there. She works there, and she comes out. She goes, "You guys look tired." We go, "Oh, we are." And she goes, "Well, I'm Parlor Beth. I'm called Parlor Beth because I work at the ice cream parlor, and I've been doing this for so many years." And we're talking to her, and then before we know it, she comes out giving us ice creams, and it's just all these. And so I'm thinking about all these experiences, and I'm just. What a blast.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and, being a little bit crazy enough to ride your bike 800 miles within the borders of Iowa and live to tell about it.
Live to tell the tale.
Well, thanks for coming on the podcast, Liam.
Thanks so much for having me, Murph.
Well, listeners, that is it for today. We want to thank you for tuning in to listen to the Just Go Bike podcast. If you would like to contact Murph and AP with a comment about the podcast, or maybe even you have a topic in mind, you can reach us at justgobikepodcast@gmail.com. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook and watch our intros on YouTube. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, especially if you're a fan. That is going to do it for this week. Until next time,
Just go bike.
Theme song by Ryan Steer, logo by Suzanne Milosevic, produced by Kathy Murphy, social media by Andrea Parrott, intro by Pumpkin. Until next time, just go bike.